Welcome back to A Faster Me. Here we are out at Tour de Murrieta, stage one. Well, not really stage, but the first day, the Grand Prix. So I was in a bad position from the start, just lined up way back at the line. And
Real quick, you see Anya was on your left and she sprinted. That's the kind of urgency we need, both of us needed this week to get on the Peloton. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, no problem. I mean, I wasn't feeling the greatest, just mentally, physically. I was trying to get my mind right, just kind of trying to put that out of my mind and just saying it doesn't matter, get out there and race and compete. So I was kind of just battling myself, but it was nice to see Anya. I said hi to her on the starting line. I see she has the 2024 jersey on, so definitely a lot of potential there. And this race is just so interesting because the corners are a little bit technical and people slow down just so significantly. I mean, the braking was crazy. I tried to use that to my advantage, but again, leaving a little distance and then taking the corners at pace still, doesn't put you in a front position. So I was looking for ways to move up. There was sprints out of every corner, so the surging just was crazy. I'll have to look at my watts and see what I'm doing out of the corners, but
Yeah, you're doing at least 400 watts like out of every corner, and that's a lot. I mean, yeah, and in your defense too, the Laverne stage races took a lot out of you.
and there's Jules to my right. I think this is her second race, so great job to her, being out there. And
Also, Melly right there, Melly Pena, 625. Good to see her back out on course and racing and competing.
it was also a little bit cold, little, just maybe not the best conditions, but not bad either.
Yeah, it's funny because we had a lot of conversations this weekend about mixing categories and different stuff like that. And there's pros and cons. One, of course, everyone's excited to see the women's field so large of 50 something riders or 49 riders. But at the same time, we have to be careful of mixing the skill levels so much. So there's a lot of teaching moments in this race basically. From dive bombing to not taking good lines, cross wheeling, all those kind of things. It's we all know there's a big crash coming up later in this race, but it's really a true blessing that there wasn't more crashes. Obviously, we'll try to point out some of the stuff when we can, but I'm not sure the mixing of the categories is done correctly.
Well, it's just such a wide range. So even though the masters are scored separately, there's some, Cat 1 riders in there, and Cat 1 to a novice first-time racer is just a huge difference. So, I know some people kind of argue for it makes it faster, safer, which for some people that may be true, but for new riders that, people are going to be riding over their head to just try to even stay in the race, and then they're, typically some newer riders are going to just be dropped.
Well, I think also that's a little misconception, and it's misleading to everyone because faster is safer when you have the skill to do it. But unfortunately, there's a lot of really strong riders that are beginners. And a lot of people think, oh, they're fast, that means they have the skill to be in a higher race, and it doesn't. Even just right there on that turn, there's 4 different lines there that people shouldn't have been doing. One went wide and cut in way too early. The other 2 people were way in the inside, and one of them ran wide, one of them had to slow down a lot. It's not the same thing. Just because you're strong enough to hang with faster people does not mean that you have the racing knowledge or racing skill to be in a higher category race. And now in the men's races, the 1, 2, 3, they even made an announcement this week that the Cat 3s shouldn't be racing with, the Pro 1, 2 guys. And, it's been Pro 1, 2, 3 for a long time. Sometimes, they split it out. But, yeah, it doesn't, being fast does not make you safe. it's just a concept that faster races are safer because they stretch out and they're single file or double file through the corners instead of going 3-4 wide. But when you have Cat 5s that are just as fast as women that are Cat 2, but it's their first race or second race or first year racing, that doesn't make it any safer.
For sure. Yeah, here I'm on Melissa's wheel. This is probably the best drafting I do all race, just because it's someone that I'm comfortable with and I know is a solid wheel to follow. But I need to, we both need to be kind of moving up the road. It's pretty strung out here. And it just slows significantly going into a couple of the turns, and then it's a little bit harder to move up, especially when I have been kind of a little bit off the back. But I just try to take the corners to my advantage and try to move up a few positions at a time. But I just was tired.
Yeah, well, you know what, honestly, as we've been talking about the differences and lines and things like that, it's really clear that out of the women back here at the back of the peloton, you're definitely taking the most flowing lines and kind of the safer lines. And I'm not saying that because you're my wife or to pat you on the back or whatever. It's easy to tell because you carry so much more speed. You're not making multiple inputs through the line, and you're making one input, and that's what everyone should do. You should not make 3-4 inputs in the same turn. It's simply judge your speed. You got to slow down if you need to. If not, do not touch your brakes. And once you initiate turn in, that's the only turn in or the only input you should make, and then hold your line. And you can see there, the lady in front of you, she kind of weaved 3 times in the same turn. And again, just to be clear too, my race was the same way. And I'm not criticizing anyone like individually. We're just kind of trying to point out what's on film, and hopefully all of us can learn from it. And that's why we always, post our entire video, the entire race if we can, so we can have all these learning and teaching moments.
And there you see Jess from Go Fast. We're gonna, play tag in this race, back and forth. It was kind of fun. But it would be much more fun to be playing tag at the front. So, along with the cornering, it was very little bit unsettling just because of the slowing and the different lines. I did a lot of braking just because I wasn't confident in people in front of me. And again, this is just another lesson to be in the front. You can take the lines as you want them and set the pace. And as far as, you giving me some positives on the cornering, I'm sure anyone who's seen our, channel and commentary long enough knows that, you can be critical also, so you're going to call it like it is. So I don't think anyone's saying you're giving me accolades just for being your wife.
Hey, well, I don't know. Our world is changing. Our world is just changing. It's different. And if you say anything to anyone, someone's going to be offended at some point. So there's Jessica there putting in a hard effort, stands up and puts in a little dig to get back on. And, you and I, we feed off of each other, and we have kind of similar personalities sometimes, but we don't have that urgency. And it's hurting us right now. It's hurting us this year. Jessica put in that urgency. She stood up. She found a wheel to jump on, and she's, attached again, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, this is a little bit of those bad habits that I think I'm going back to because, and it turned out that this was similar, but because of the slowing in the corners, I allow that little gap and then, I'm going to catch up, which I usually do, but it still is at a disadvantage because you're not moving up. You're just like staying connected. So here I am back connected. And
who's 392? Is that Kenya? I'm not sure if it was or not, but so Kenya just came out of that corner, and that's part of the thing of when you have stop and go racing like this. She came out of that corner and wasn't in the proper gear, and if you saw how slow her cadence was, that's why she wasn't able to accelerate. That takes a lot out of your legs. So on a course like this that's fairly narrow on parts of it, because once you pass the start finish line it gets really narrow, and that's one of the reasons why it's so surgy, is because it stretches out, the accordion effect kicks in, and you have to accelerate. Well, that also means that you have to multitask right now. As you start to coast here, you have to start downshifting into a proper gear so you can accelerate out of the corner here. If not, if you're caught in too heavy of a gear, you see how a lot of people are standing, putting down heavy power. That's really taxing on the legs.
There's Sage to my right. Next Wave Racing is the team she joined this year. We were talking before the race. Both of our legs felt pretty trashed from the Laverne race the weekend before. You know, it's just amazing how many different levels there are of fitness. This is my first time doing back-to-back, you know, multiple days
Stage
of racing
yeah.
in a row. And I think it just took a little bit of a toll. I wasn't quite used to it. I felt really good last weekend. And this weekend, you know, and kind of through the days leading up to this weekend, my legs just were not feeling as good, which then you think of just so many different levels where people are racing 5, 6, 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
Some of the world tour levels, it just really is amazing.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to point out something the last lap too that I didn't get a chance to, but I think it was Tina from Lagrange. She moved up really well, saw some gaps in the field and moved up a couple spots, and that just shows like the difference of experience where you have in the race some people that are struggling to hold a simple line even when no one's around them, and then you have Tina with good experience that was able to move up a good 10 spots just by taking advantage of the gaps that people left. And just like you moved up here going around the outside, you're able to carry speed and hold the line. And yeah, it's just there's a lot of stuff going on in this race.
Yeah, so, you know, here I did find a way to move up a little bit, but I think you see some people then, you know, coming by me again.
Now, you're doing a good job of holding here, holding speed, accelerated hard out of the corner. Some of these preem laps too, though, really picked the pace up and really made it hot. I think the only thing is here, like you just, you know, you let the wheel fade a little bit and you're not really assertive on like, this is the wheel I'm on. So you kind of drift from wheel to wheel or into open space sometimes.
More like most of the time. I'm not real decisive of who, especially not knowing, you know, wheels. I'm not real confident following, but then I just, like you said, I just kind of, I'm riding without a specific purpose.
Yeah.
And I need to pick, specific wheels to follow.
Well, I think you don't really need specific wheels to follow on a. So since you're not in the position you want to be in, you don't really need a specific wheel. You need to follow the wheel that you're on at the time until you find the opportunity to move up to a better wheel. But sometimes you don't like being right behind. It's almost like driving behind a truck on traffic when you can't see around the truck. Often you just change lanes because you just want better visibility. That seems like what you do in bike racing. Instead of staying behind the wheel for a second to use it as your advantage, you instantly move over to the right or left.
Absolutely. Especially knowing that I want to move up. I'm a little bit anxious. I'm not patient. I'm looking to move up before I am in the wheel. So I do, you know, a little too much time in the wind.
Yeah, here you're kind of lagging about behind here on the acceleration, and you got to put in a lot of your own effort here, a lot of your own work.
Yeah, I saw I was doing like 250, 300 watts, so, you know, a lot of acceleration out of the corner, and then in anticipation, I do much less watts just going into the corner, but I'm not even connected yet.
Yeah, well, you know what? Honestly, again, this is just a compliment to your strength. Actually, you're way better than the results you're getting. I wish I could say the same for myself. I got dropped in my race this weekend, which was the first time basically ever getting dropped in a crit, and I was doing pretty much all I could. And once I detached from the group, there's no catching whatsoever, and you're usually, other than that one CBR race, you're usually strong enough to run the group down again, and you did it again in this race. I mean, you're on the verge of getting dropped is what it seems like, and then a lap later you're right back in the thick of it. So definitely it's just some of your decision making, some of your efficiency, but 100% you have enough power and enough fitness to be a good 20 places up from where you're at.
Yeah, so many factors go into that, from where you start, having the skill to navigate through people and around people, being able to see things ahead of time, like when someone's kind of losing a wheel. I a lot of times wait too long. And unfortunately, I think if this would be a CBR with like four corners that's a lot higher speed, I probably would have been dropped because the course is technical and there's a lot of slowing down. That's how I'm able to catch up. So I think it's, you know, a
Yeah.
little bit of truth in both things. Like I do have some strength, but I also am not,
Well,
using it to my advantage.
true, but just for clarification, fast flowing courses are actually harder to get dropped on. Courses like this with stop and go are easier to get dropped on because you use so much power coming out. The faster flowing it is, your power is a little bit more smooth. That's why people think a faster crit makes it safer, but it only makes it safer under certain conditions. It doesn't make it safer when you mix skill levels so vastly.
And to clarify, what I was saying though is, if I was getting dropped in one of those courses, it would have been harder.
Yes.
To catch back on because it is flowing at a
Maintaining.
higher rate. But
Yeah.
yes, the surging does not play to my strengths. I'm a little bit more. I like consistent power. I can go for kind of a long time, but the surging is not what my strengths are. And because my legs were trashed, the workout I ended up skipping this week was surge work. So it may have helped me, or maybe I would have been
No.
more trashed. I don't know. But the surge work is the workout that
No.
I rested on that day.
No, you actually needed the rest this week. I mean, Laverne took a lot out of you, and we did some hard training up to that point. So yeah, you definitely needed the rest this week. You almost needed a full recovery week actually after Laverne, but it is what it is. You can't be at your best on every race, but if you look here, you're right back in the thick of it again. And this is again where, once you get attached to the group again, this is where you have to switch that mindset and say, okay, they gave me a second chance. You just have to make the most of it. Try to move up the inside here and just make up a couple spaces or something, a couple places if you can, and just keep doing that each lap. Find an opportunity to move up and do the best you can.
And not let people come by you again after you move up a few places. That's the key. That's what I need to work on. And there's Cassidy with the orange helmet, and she actually makes a good effort right there, and she makes up a lot of spaces right there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with this stop and go, there's a lot of opportunity to make up, spots. It is hard because it's narrow, and you have to be confident. Like if you see Jessica right now, everyone's coasting. Jessica moves up the inside. You have to be confident that you're going to be able to make that turn there, and you have to have the skill to do it. If not, it turns into a dive bomb, and then you end up taking people out. Jessica was really safe with what she did. There was space there. She moved up, and if you notice, she turned the corner tight. She didn't try to take the fast line and go to the outside after that because there's bikes there. She has to turn the corner tight and then accelerate out of the corner, which she did. I think here she does the same thing. She's using the partial draft. The wind comes a little bit off of our right anyway, and then she tries to find more spots to go around and move up. And you see there's a couple girls moving up to the left. She follows them right on the left side, goes around. She knows she can make it before the corner because everyone slows down here. So she made up a good 20, 25 places right there just in 2 moves.
I should have just followed her wheel and gone with her.
You should have. You do make up a couple spots here, but because you didn't accelerate as hard out of the corner, people go right back by you.
And there is Naomi, I think. I know she's usually, running in the front, so I was thinking, okay, stay on her wheel, but I let the wheel just kind of fade away.
Yeah, and if you see, Naomi used good judgment. She wanted to move up the inside there, but I think Sam had her handlebars basically in front of Naomi's, and Naomi backed off. And that's the key right there when you're using the inside, is you have to be able to have good judgment, a good depth perception, and see, can I make this turn or will I not make it? And if the rider in front of you has their handlebars and hips in front of your wheel, they can't see you really. They don't know you're there, and it's your responsibility to pass safely.
And my judgment always errs on the side of giving way too much room.
But honestly, it's okay. I mean, we all have jobs and stuff like that, and that's part of it. You can race really safe and not have good results, Or sometimes you have to get in the mix and things happen. And there's no right or wrong way, honestly. We just really need to do a better job of practicing our craft, um, you know, taking race clinics, things like that, and learning what we're doing right and wrong and be able to hold lines and know where our skill level lies. Also, situational awareness and just being aware of your surroundings is a big deal. I think there's a young lady in a black kit, and I believe she goes down later. Please forgive me, I'm not trying to criticize you or anything, but watching Naomi's video, there's probably about 4 times where she abruptly moves left or right and could have taken people out where people had to adjust to her lines. And I don't think it's intentional at all. She just wasn't aware that there's riders to your right and there's riders to your left.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it almost just seemed like it was a matter of time before we had an accident, just with the large field where a lot of our races have not been 40 plus. It just amazes me just thinking of some races that, I spectated a few years ago with 5, 6, 7, 8 women in it.
Lisa was a little tight there and almost hit the curb on the inside. And yeah, 90-degree turns, you don't want to hug the inside like that going on the straight. If you're on the curb already on the straightaway, you definitely can't make a 90-degree turn. You have to give yourself some room, be closer to the double yellow, so you can give yourself enough space to make the turn and be heading up the street when you after hitting the apex, and not across the road and across other riders. So you should not be hugging the inside of the curb while you're on the straightaway when there's a 90-degree turn coming up.
We did a better job in this race of using the whole road. I remember years in the past where people have stayed completely on one side of the double yellow, even though we're able to use the whole road. I think the back side, the right-hand turn, there's times where we were all right of the yellow line. So
yeah,
at least this time we were using the whole road, even if there was about 10 lines going into the corner.
Yeah, just honestly, as we count down the laps here, which we only have a couple laps to go, people start getting a little desperate, and that's why it fans out so much, where people are thinking they can go up inside, but it ends in disaster. You cannot be so tight on a 90-degree turn, especially at the fastest part of the track. You're often hitting 30 miles per hour coming down to that corner, which is basically crash corner for this crit. Every crash over the years has pretty much happened in that corner. And yeah, if there's a gaggle of riders hugging the inside of that corner, it's gonna cause problems.
Well, that's funny. I say we use the whole road, but most people stayed right of that yellow line, even though it would behoove us to be a little further left and be able to take that corner, really at speed. But I really love the character of this course. I think it's a lot of fun. The corners are fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really prefer the technical multiple corner crit versus just a 4-corner.
Yeah. And like you said, that line choice is one of the reasons why our speeds are different. I typically do okay in crit races. I got dropped this weekend, but our speed was like 4 miles per hour faster than the speed of you guys. And a lot of the girls in this race, they're faster riders than I am. The difference is, for whatever reason, you guys get in races and you take the slowest lines available. If you guys are simply taking the fast line, a lot of the faster women would really stretch it out. But the line choices are just not the same.
Yeah, it's so funny because I think back to my very first crit ever was here, and I remember thinking that in the first lap, my gosh, the corners are so slow, but it wasn't very long before I was dropped in laps, so something wasn't that slow, even if I thought the corners were being taken slow.
The corners are slow. It's just you're basically doing 30 sprints, 40 sprints, maybe even more. We have a 6-corner crit. We're sprinting out of every corner, and you're doing, 10 laps, 12 laps, something like that. So that's basically doing full speed sprints for at least 5 to 10 seconds out of every corner.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're heading into the final lap right here.
I think so too. And it is funny, this race is 2 months in front of where it was last year, but I did get some bad news the night before this race, and I did think of, that loss out here several times. It didn't, I don't think, cause me to do anything different, but it's just amazing how those memories can kind of come back.
Yeah.
Even though it's a completely, different month, but just, different things trigger loss.
It's going to be hard to see. We actually are too far back, but we saw it on Naomi's video. So after the right hand turn here, there's going to be a girl with the red jersey. I think she may be a Lagrange rider. I don't know if she's Lagrange or what is it? Maybe Sisterhood of Cycling or Subaru. I can't remember which it is. But it's a red jersey and a girl in a blue jersey. They're to the left, pretty close, hugging the left side. They're actually made contact a couple times on the straightaway here. They both manage to stay up, but they're really tight and no one gives an inch going into that 90-degree left-hander. And then the girl with the light blue jersey makes contact with the girl in all black, and she goes down. And unfortunately, the girl in all black also had her left pedal down, which is the inside pedal, and she shouldn't have. So I don't know if that really hits the pavement or not. I know her handlebars do get hit, and that causes that crash there, basically.
And then unfortunately, Cassidy, I think, saw all the mayhem in front and went down just, kind of out of panic. I did put my foot down behind her, and, I'm glad that she is okay. So here we're just kind of finishing out. I do, a pretty hard effort to just come by whoever I can at the end, because I know a lot of people got caught up in that crash, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, I had a mishap, but I think everyone was okay.
You do a good job of accelerating right here. Also, it's not a full sprint, but you're sprinting pretty much as you can. But you do a pretty good job here passing people. And just one more thing on that crash is someone else also saw the crash, and a couple girls simply did not turn, and they ran right across the face, right across the wheel of multiple girls, causing another crash.
So anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, day 2, the circuit race, and glad everyone, at least that I know of, made it through the crash okay.